and there's a stage of getting mental clarity, and they're probably all happening for you at the same time. But I would say there's sometimes the recalibration can feel really like you're going down deep into the darkness and really working with the muck in your subconscious and your core wounding. Okay, but then you kind of start to emerge out of it. Now, the last stage is implementation. Now, here's important because we're in a culture where, if we're going to kind of get our business running, we really pride ourselves on the doing aspect. And I'm not saying not to take action. But when we take action from survival, when we take action from problem solving, then what happens is it becomes like these manic manifestations, especially if you're not crystal clear on who you are and why you're here. That comes in gaining clarity. Then you're going to try to get things done or do things, but it's never really going to be the thing that you want. And it's always going to look like these, there's a lot of people I know who are kind of starting these businesses after 2 years of not doing anything. And some are doing it from clarity, and some are just doing it because it's like, now I got to get to implement. I got to do something. But they haven't gone back to that place of recalibration. They haven't gone back to that place of mental clarity to take action and understand what really is my North Star. So in implementation, we want to understand what is the direction that I'm going in, and what is the direction I've always known? What is the place where I'm continuing to go towards the vision in my business? Because here's what's going to happen. And it happens all the time with my clients. We have these sessions and they're, first they're kind of in survival and like, oh my God, I don't think this is going to work. And then we do some kind of practice to liberate that energy. And then there's a mental clarity and there's like a download. And they're like, yeah, I've always known that I'm going to be speaking in front of a lot of people. I've always known I'm going to be working with this population. I've always known I'm gifted to work with kids. I've always known I'm gifted to wake people up in a certain way. Okay? And then so they get that download, and then if they're not steeped and create autonomy in the recalibration part, then as soon as they move towards what they want, their core wounding is going to stop them. Because remember what I said, in recalibration, there's a need to liberate energy that is being held in a subconscious patterning that is of protection. And you can't fully paint the full picture if you only have green and blue. Let me know if that makes sense, right? It's like if you only have a certain amount of energy to move towards it, there's always going to be like one pedal on foot on the pedal and one on the gas, because there's a lot of subconscious, unconscious energy needing to protect yourself. So it's kind of like you're going to move towards something, but you're going to kind of hold yourself back. Or you're going to go into something where you're implementing towards a goal that you don't really want, but it kind of feels safe. Because here's the thing. All of these stages, what we're looking for at our base is safety. So at an instinctual level, it's safety in the body. It's safety, with our, even in our mental landscape, and it's safety energetically. And it's also safety for the soul's voice to come through. So when you have these big visions and these like crazy audacious dreams, there is also an element of feeling safe to be able to speak those into existence. And both parts of our experience as a human and a soul needs a container. So if you were to work with me, it's like we give space for both the survival needs, the need to be safe, and we look at where that safety has rooted from. So if you had trauma in your life, and it's something from a long time ago when you were younger, and that hasn't had, we just didn't have the capacity to process it, you need a container to be able to process those emotions, to be able to process the emotional body, to process the nervous system that feels slightly on edge all the time, to process the mind that constantly loops in a certain pattern that we don't even realize is happening, right? A process where the body can stay stable. So that's in our first part of our program. We ground in the body, we process emotion, we gain mental clarity, and we start to master energy, because all of that is going to help you create stamina for where you're going, your vision. So let me know if this is making sense, okay? So in implementation, what we want to look out for is that mental clarity. Remember I talked about observe it, write it down, watch the patterns, watch the thread. And if it's always a reoccurring vision, then we start to know that is our North Star. And here's what happens. If we don't acclimatize in stage 1 and 2, and we're moving towards our North Star, what it looks like is I'm going to move towards my North Star, but then all of a sudden something happens and I get triggered and my emotions get like out of whack because I'm trying to move towards my dream, but it's not working out. And then I change the North Star. I change the direction. I've always known I wanted to go to Africa, but all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Let me just go to Vietnam, right? And then we move towards that, and then we start to realize, oh God, that's not the place I want to go. And then we start going into confusion.